Once again, everybody, Jason H&S Games. Long time no see. We got to stop meeting like this. Just a few quick things, some odds and ends regarding some comments, questions that have been raised, and I encourage any and all of you to shoot questions or comments our way. They're greatly appreciated. You could be unknowingly doing us a favor by bringing something to our attention, so bear that in mind. But so this will be just a quick short thing addressing a couple issues. The first one being unit cards and the plastic holders. How many of these holders will you need? Well, it depends because in using these, you really only need them for these leaders and squads, which I think that entails about 12 total. As far as any of the other cards, you're not even really required to use those. They're strictly optional, but if you choose to go that route, I think you're looking at 11 random event cards, roughly a dozen German support weapons, a little less for the Soviets, roughly a dozen casualty cards, and again roughly a dozen Soviet action cards among some other stuff. But that's basically it. And again, you're really only required to use cards or something that you can place over the card and write on. It doesn't have to be hard plastic. It can be the cheap plastic card sleeve. Not a problem as long as you can write on it. Also, had a question about the rules proper, and still undecided as to whether or not we will post the rules online prior to release, or even post-release for that matter. Still undecided. I've not arrived at a decision on that. I understand a lot of you are curious, want to know what they're getting into before they spend their hard-earned dollars. Don't blame you. So we're still mulling that over. We'll let you know as soon as I know. That leaves the ink, and a gentleman brought up a valid point. How much ink can I expect to blow out on this thing? And I suppose it depends on a few factors. What I've done to help you in this respect is to include a file that says stop, read this first. And what you're going to do with that is stop and read that first. Haha, right? And that will allow you to know if you need to print something in color or if it's optional. If you should print something on cardstock or not. Likewise, if you should print something double-sided or single-sided. All this stuff is going to be mapped out for you, so you don't have to learn via trial and error. I understand ink and paper, the cost of that can add up. We're going to try and make this as easy on you as we can. Would love to release this as a physical game, much like we did in the beginning with Platoon Leader, but you have to bear in mind that this is a much different beast than Platoon Leader, and the only reason we were really even able to release the amount of physical copies that we did for Platoon Leader was a couple of reasons. The minimal amount of pages involved, at least with the initial base game, but also I was lucky enough to live on campus here at the University of New Orleans, next to an on-campus copy center that made it affordable, somewhat affordable to do so. I think we were roughly breaking even on those physical copies. Definitely we're not making a profit, that's for sure. And they're gone now, so even if we wanted to, that option is now out the window, and off the top of my head, I can't think of anybody that I could use to get a comparable cost, but that's neither here nor there. And even if we went that route, then we'd have to jack the price up to cover the cost of the ink and the printers. I didn't want to mess with all that. I want to make this thing affordable and leave it at that. So, to do so, this has to be print and play. That said, we're going to try and address a few issues with the what I call superfluous ink, and I suppose the player aid and a number of pages involving charts have, I guess you could call it superfluous ink. Now this is printed in black and white, there is a army olive or olive drab, well, Feldgrau, I guess is the specific correct term. Feldgrau color that you could print this out in. Um, but for those of you that don't want to print it out with any background, I understand that can entail a lot of ink. We're working on an option for that. We're addressing that. And also I would recommend when you do print this out, there should be a setting called Fast Draft. Use that, at least for your rule book and charts. For that matter, if you have access to a laser printer, I'd even recommend using that over something that uses an ink cartridge as such. You definitely have options, but anyway, that's that. And I suppose one final issue that needs to be addressed, and that is, in a previous video, I took a terrain tile, placed it on here, and it magically stuck. Now, how did I do that? Well, no secret involved, nothing complicated. Simply take your tape, get a little piece, stick it on the back, and you're good to go. You know, once you do this, you only have to do it once. You're good for a long time. You take your, for instance, hill on our winter terrain example and place it accordingly. Easy enough. You could also take a cheap glue stick. Make sure it's the cheapest you can find. You don't want a good one. The cheap ones barely have enough adhesive to be considered glue. And just mark the back of it lightly and post it on there. It'll peel away with no problem. You won't be pulling paper off. The stuff isn't powerful enough to do that, and that's another option as well. Additionally, you can get your terrain tiles, place them accordingly, and that's where you take your plexiglass, simply place it over the top of everything. So there's your other option. So that's how you deal with that. And that's that. So that'll be it for this video. Again, we encourage any comments, questions, etc., etc. Sooner the better, because the release date is fast upon us. And again, you may catch something that we're unaware of, and you might be doing us a favor. So, until next time, I'll talk to you guys later.